Hola, buenas. Bienvenidos, muchas gracias por venir. Vamos a empezar la tarde de programación con una charla de Margarita, que viene de Atenas. Y por poneros un poco en contexto, Margarita es la directora de la feria, la Art Book Fair de Atenas, que es un proyecto muy similar al nuestro, como tenemos los mismos años de tiempo haciendo la feria. Y bueno, como muchas similitudes, este año quisimos hacer algo juntos, entonces llegamos al acuerdo de hacer como unas mesas representativas de cada una de las ferias e intercambiar esas mesas. Entonces hace un mes estuvimos desde Recreo participando en su feria con una mesa que era una selección de publicaciones de varios editores de Valencia y de España. Y pues ahora tenemos aquí el placer de disfrutar de la mesa de Atenas con un montón de publicaciones de la feria de Atenas. Y bueno, nada, os dejo aquí con Margarita. Si necesitáis traducción en el inglés, hay unos dispositivos disponibles. Me podéis avisar y os doy. Y si no, pues estamos viendo con inglés. Muchas gracias y un aplauso para Margarita.
Eso? Here. Hi, hello everyone. Thank you very much for coming. What I'll do is I'm an artist based in Athens, so I decided to show you a couple of my own stuff first. Low-key promo, but also I think it's a good way to know who's talking to you. And then I will describe how the fair started as an idea, what kind of needs it's fulfilling. I will describe what happened in the first and second editions and the third one. And then you can ask me whatever you want to ask me. Okay, so this is some of my stuff. I make publications, collage-based prints a lot of the time. I'm not going to talk about them, but you know, they're like thirst traps. You can ask me about them later. But starting a fair was because I needed somewhere to show my stuff. There was no place in Greece. I got into art by collecting comics when I was a teenager, so I have a huge collection of feminist comics. And so like publications and independent publishing is a big part of my life ethos. So this is how I'm kind of bringing it to my present. So the fair began as an idea sometime in the end of 2018, out of a need of artistic visibility, autonomy from the institutions that are quite, what's the word? Let's say close-minded, and gatekeeping, and to a massive extent, a need for community. As I said, it was quite lonely making artist publications, despite publishing being quite a, well, potentially sociable medium. There were not quite comics and there were not quite poetry, so I felt alone in Athens. So these are the needs I was looking to fulfill. So in a kind of mood of frustration, one night I made this logo on my bed and started the social media for the fair, and in my head that meant the fair now exists. As you can see, I have a lot of passion, but I'm not a great graphic designer, but, oops, wrong, here. So it's not the best logo, but it did the job. The first edition of the fair took place in 2019, over 3 separate floors in an Athenian arcade. They're quite classic buildings where like different kinds of works are usually taking place. Let's see, this is the inside. This was our poster. Yeah, that's the poster on the left. This was the entrance, the first floor. So we got all these different spaces. That's the second floor, essentially through like hustling and knowing people, and people supported us. There was no funding to do this. So a lot of the community started coming together to make this fair happen. Very Athenian vibes, like heavy Athenian vibes. And that's the third floor. So we had around 40 local exhibitors and a bit more than 20 international exhibitors. We selected them via an open call. And the main criteria to take, well, we have a few criteria, but I will discuss them throughout this talk. But the first thing that we're looking for is devotion to the medium. So this is people that have an ongoing practice. That can be anything from, like, you know, a zinester, an artist that makes zines but does not self-ascribe as a zinester and is more in conversation with contemporary art. And then there's like poetry magazines, there's publications about art. We strive to create a balance between what you might call quite crudely like high and low art. So we want to represent the whole spectrum of publishing practices. That's the goal. We also have a collective table. We did it the first time in our first edition. The collective table essentially is like where we put singular publications that might not necessarily belong in an ongoing practice, but we feel that the really cool things that should be shown in the fair. So you might have people that are just starting out, or you might have like someone that just made an amazing one of zine and then nothing again. So this is the space to accommodate this kind of practices. And essentially this is our way of involving more of the local scene in the fair, more than we could accommodate with tables, because there's a lot of people involved, but we still have to maintain it somehow small. Like, I don't think huge fairs are working for anyone. We also have a public program. How we do it is, essentially the public program is the space that is more curated within the fair. That's where our own politics comes in, our own interest, and we choose to give visibility and platform to projects that we feel are neglected by the contemporary cultural practices in Greece. That means, for example, we like to give platform to artists that are immigrants or queer or femme, and also we're very interested in works that are produced in our geographic vicinity. We want to have a dialogue with the practices that are in Greece and around, because there's not that many fairs in our geographic location, and it's really hard to know who is doing what unless we all travel to Berlin or Paris, which is not an option sometimes. So that's our schedule for the talks in the first fair. Do you want me to read them out, or? So the first day was more like practices, like performative lectures, so practices that involve text and performance that is also expressed through publishing. While the second day concentrated more on getting to know projects from, let's say, from cultural peripheries. We like to call it like that. And we also had a design exhibition, and we also did a queer poetry slam. I don't have any more photos. I couldn't find any, I don't know why, but it was really nice. You have to take my word for it. People were laughing, people were crying. So overall, a huge success. So before the fair actually took place, my main fear as an organizer, and I'm sure Jaime or Ruben, you can understand, was like, you know, I know people are going to come to the fair, but will Athenians buy artist books? You know, nothing had happened like this before. So we had no idea. And I had people traveling from Japan, from Iran, from Iceland. And I was like, oh God, people need to buy. But Athenians came through, and a lot of the tables sold out, actually. People were thirsty. So it was this huge success. We didn't advertise it at all. It was just social media, which are my main tool of communicating this project. I still haven't paid for advertisement anywhere. So yeah, it was very exciting to see how happy the city was that we were there. And it was also amazing to, for the first time, see each other, like, be in the same space with these people that are doing similar things. They're not that many, but still. So after the fair, a lot of publishing-based projects started happening, bookshop here and a printing press there, and a lot more zines were created. So it's very heartwarming to see that it actually had an impact to the actual lives of people, because it's a lot of work. Okay. So, well, our 2020 edition was cancelled due to COVID, and essentially it was transferred to 2021. The poster is on the left, and the venue is on the right. The Athens Art Book Fair is well, I'm not going to say nomadic, but it's definitely traveling around the city. I guess every year we have different needs. And also Athens is pretty inhospitable in terms of spaces, so we're struggling with that. So yeah, this is this space. While the first space was located in the historical center, an area very much like Carmen, actually. It's called Monastiraki, so it's quite touristy, but it used to be a working neighborhood. So for 2021, we said it's going to be a local edition, because we're still living in COVID-related uncertainty, and flying was difficult, so we said, you know what, let's not stress ourselves. We're going to do a local edition amongst us. It's going to be good, because we all needed the cash, because people had lost their jobs. And it was a lot less stressful to do a local edition. So it took place in a municipal market in Kypseli. It's quite close to where I live, actually, and a lot of the team lives. Again, that's what it looked like on the inside. So we had 40 exhibitors and a collective table. Our public program took place online, and like 3 days before the fair, which was quite nice actually for us, because we could actually be there and absorb it. And this is our schedule. So the first day was devoted to let's say, mapping out publications as historically in Greece, which is, again, nobody talks about it, like there's never been a paper written about it. We don't know what's going on. So the people that spoke in the first day were historians, and then the second day concentrated more on people from the local scene and their vioma, what's the word? And their own living experience of like, what does it mean? Why do they do? Why are they publishing? And how is it sustainable? And how can they afford to keep doing it? And then we also had a design exhibition as well. And we also had a Balkan table because we wanted to maintain our links and our connections with the surrounding areas. This is an ongoing theme of the Athens Art Book Fair. We're very interested in the Balkans and Eastern Mediterranean. And this is the third edition, only a month ago. On the left, you can see our poster, and on the right, our venue. This was our largest edition so far. There were 80 exhibitors, were a bit less actually, because some flights got cancelled. But it was 40 local and 40 international exhibitors. We have a video we can watch for a minute, so you can get a sense of the vibe. Γιατί? So that was the vibe. We had some gigs on. We had the bar for the first time. It was like a lot. I think we really have like similar trajectories. Like you went a lot bigger this year. We also went like a lot bigger. We also collaborated with an online radio based in Athens called Fade Radio. What is it? Yeah, and we curated shows, radio shows run by our exhibitors, because a lot of them have like a dual practice. There seems to be a lot of overlap between sound practices and publishing practices, which I guess makes sense, because my thinking is that it has to do with dissemination and accessibility, and both practices are quite easy to travel with. This was this year's program. So again, we concentrated on practices, artistic practices in cultural peripheries. So that means practices that are not based in like the big urban Western centers where culture is being produced and we get to consume in the end as well, despite not being based there. So we had some talks by like Albanian publishing practitioners, Serbian, we had artists from Kiev, and then there was a lot to do. We had a lot of, we had 2 or 3 lectures about publishing as resistance or publishing as a tool for dissemination and for empowering femininities or queer people. And then we had an introduction to publishing practices in Cairo, Peru. And also Jaime and Ruben talked to us about practices here on the collective table. So, like, I keep talking about geography, but that's like, together with devotion to the medium, geography is really one of the main criteria that we use to decide who's gonna be part, or who's gonna be part. When we're deciding who's gonna take part, when we're looking at the applications, we need to balance out geographically the exhibitors, because the Athens Art Book Fair takes place in a tiny tourist destination in the edge of Europe, and it's important when you see our exhibitor list for our location to be reflected. I have no interest in pretending to be a massive fair in Berlin or whatever, you know. It's important to be sustainable in both what we can offer, but also what we can create amongst us. So we give priority to practices that are Balkan and Eastern Mediterranean. We give priority to practices that are in the peripheries, as I said. We did much better this year. I'm quite proud. We had a lot of projects. If you can go on our website and check our exhibitor list for this year, we had a lot of projects from around our area. Yeah. Do I want to say anything else about that? No. This is us. This is the team. So, it's really big. Okay, so this is Livia, who I met skating many years ago. Livia is responsible for the collective table. And together with Zina, who's a very good friend of mine as well, on the right, they curated the radio program. Then it's me. And then Katerina, to my left, we co-curate the public program together. And then Mochi, on the end, they're running a queer poetry project in Athens. They are organizing the slams. They also do production with me and with Zina. And we're still trying to figure out how it works, because I've been doing the project on my own for a couple of years, and now I'm having more people with me. So it's not exactly equal in terms of responsibilities, but whatever we're all doing, we all decide who's going to participate together, and we have to all agree, which sometimes is fun, you know, but I can be convincing. Anyway, so yeah, this is us. So another when we're talking about accessibility, to me it's important that we talk about labor. I'm an artist, which means supposedly it's my job, but also I have different jobs and I'm also running the fair. So I want it to be sustainable for me to do this work that is running the Athens Art Book Fair, and so do the rest of the members of the team. So one of our goals is to be able to have like a salary at some point from this. You know, while becoming, you know, a hub for publishing practices in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Balkan regions, we also want to have a salary. So, yes. Which brings us to here. I'm very, very happy to have managed to be here with you. As Jaime said, Recreo is, we have very similar, like parallel lives. We started really at similar times, and it's really important for us to be able to make these connections and make friendships with people close to us or similar to us, fairs that have a similar ethic, work and otherwise, with us. So, as he said, they came to us. This is a picture of, oh my God. This is a picture of Jaime and Ruben enjoying a beer in Athens last month. So, yeah, it has been super inspiring to be here. I think you've done an amazing job. I've been taking notes myself. I'll be speaking to my people about things. And yeah, the fair is looking really amazing. And please ask me questions if you want. Thank you. What microphone? We don't need it. Yes.
The first years or the first months, maybe you have to put your own money or you have to invest a lot of time and a lot of money that is not paid. So I just want to know.
I just want to know too, you know. Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was a lot of time and a lot of just like having friends and being around the scene for a long enough time for people to not be like, who the fuck is she? So it's like, yeah, we're gonna help out. So it was like cultural capital, yes, which apparently is untranslatable to actual capital, but you know, we're working on that. What was the question? How is it? It's not.
Okay, my real question was if the cultural capital can be translated to actual capital doing these kind of projects.
I mean, you know, I have gained visibility from doing this. Mm-hmm. So, and I have been given opportunities because of this. But I don't even want to say I have been given opportunities. I've, like, I took them. It's not like the actual working hours that go into this. It's like running a company. It's like the full year round, it has running costs, and all the artists that are participating, they're very excited, but it's like, you know, you get some complaints as well, and I'm like, I'm not the museum. Why are you complaining to me? But then, you know, this is something I had to realize, that somehow in the process I became someone people can have complaints with. So things are transforming, but I'm still like in the cusp. I'm sure there's more business savvy people that could find a way to translate it. Maybe I don't know where to find the funds, or I don't know, or I care too much about doing my artist book, and I'm not, you know, trying to get a European fund of some sort. I'm working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Okay, so as you were saying, like these last 3 years, you've been working a lot with publishers from the Balkans and the Eastern Mediterranean. Like, what are the things that you learned from those scenes? Like, what's their future? What's their situation right now? And like, should we expect them to see like a boom all around, or what are your thoughts?
There is something actually. Thanks for the prompt. Something I forgot to mention about that. I will answer your question, but first I will say this. So, in thinking about accessibility to this fair, and when you're including projects and artists that don't live within Europe, so essentially are running on currency that is weaker than the euro, how do they, let's say, participate without it being extremely expensive for them? Like our fees are smaller than most fairs to participate in the Athens Art Book Fair, but it's still like it's super cheap for someone in Switzerland and then still expensive from someone from Lebanon. So we were actually thinking of doing like a sliding scale based on currency, but it's out there. It could go really wrong, but this is us trying to figure out what's the best way to. So then, the Swiss project will pay more, and it will work out with the Egyptian project that will pay less, and then it will somehow equalize. We already have a sliding scale in terms of artists pay less than publishing houses. So maybe we'll try to make a very complicated sliding scale for fees, but we're still working on that. So, to answer your question, there seems to be in every city like maybe a bookshop or two, and then a gallery that will also have a publishing project or two, a few artists that do only publications. It's not really, from what I've understood and what I've seen, it's the conditions are not easy enough, I guess, for there to be a booming scene. But maybe it's also because there isn't a fair. So I can't say I have like, I mean, the Cairo Art Book Fair is starting now, so I think it's going to be an interesting case study as well, to see how it will affect their scene. Because talking about Athens, we had it was sporadic. It was sporadic, and I guess none of these people felt they were part of a scene until we got into a space together. So I think I am really interested to see if the same happens in Cairo. Thank you. There's another one.
Hi.
Hi.
Maybe it's too soon. I think this question is related with the things that you were saying before. I wanted to know if you have felt that what you are doing in your city has created some kind of impulse in other people to kind of replicate the experience, maybe around Greece or somewhere.
Like to make another
abroad.
fair, to make a fair, or
to make a fair or to make an encounter. Maybe it's not so big. Maybe it's soon, but in my experience here in Spain, I mean, Recreo for me is an experience that it's similar to other things that were happening, for example, in Madrid. So have you felt that this kind of energy is spreading, around your fair?
It should be spreading. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the Thessaloniki or Salonika Art Book Fair. It hasn't happened yet. they don't have, Thessaloniki is the next larger city in Greece. It's in the north. And we do have a couple of 3 exhibitors from there, but again, not a huge scene. It hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it will.
But have you received like messages from other people saying like, oh, this is cool, it's inspiring to work on that somewhere else? Maybe not. I mean, maybe soon.
It's mostly artists saying, "Oh, I'm so inspired. I saw this and I saw this and I saw this," and then they do come up with a publication next year, and it's in the collective table. So it was more to do with personal expression as opposed to taking the initiative to create something that would eat up your life.
Nice.
In a good way.
Great.
I think we're done. Thank you.